Hello and welcome to Lost Love Mystery, where we explore the twists and turns of love, the pain of betrayal, and the mysteries that lie hidden in the heart. I followed Brenda to her table, where three other women from our company were seated. I knew them all by name, but not well enough to consider them friends. The atmosphere was lively, and everyone seemed to be in a good mood. Brenda introduced me to her friends as if I was a stranger, though they all knew who I was. They laughed and joked, making me feel comfortable, but I kept my guard up. This wasn't a social visit, at least not for me. As I sipped my drink, I watched the interactions around me. Brenda, who was usually reserved at work, seemed relaxed and confident. She leaned in close as she spoke, her voice light and teasing. I couldn't help but notice the way she looked at me, a mix of playfulness and interest. It was flattering, sure, but I reminded myself of why I was there. This wasn't about starting something new. It was about making a point. After a while, Brenda asked me to dance again. I hesitated, but she grabbed my hand and led me back to the dance floor before I could decline. This time, the music was slower, and the dance was more intimate. Brenda wrapped her arms around my neck, and I placed my hands lightly on her waist. As we swayed to the music, she leaned in closer, her cheek brushing against mine. I felt a pang of guilt, but pushed it aside. This wasn't cheating. Not really. Not compared to what Cora had done. When the song ended, Brenda didn't let go right away. Instead, she looked up at me with a smile that was equal parts mischievous and inviting. "You're a pretty good dancer," she said. "Thanks," I replied, stepping back to put some space between us. "You're not so bad yourself." "Not so bad," she said, pretending to be offended. "I'll take that as a compliment." We returned to the table, and I noticed the time. It was getting late, and I didn't want to push my luck. I excused myself, thanking Brenda and her friends for the company. As I walked out of the bar, I couldn't help but wonder what Cora would think if she knew where I'd been and who I'd been with. Would she even care? When I got home, it was almost midnight. The house was dark except for the soft glow of the bedside lamp in our bedroom. Cora was awake, sitting up in bed with a book in her hands. She looked up as I entered the room, her expression unreadable. "You're late," she said. "Yeah, we lost track of time," I replied casually, heading to the bathroom to shower. I left the door slightly ajar, hoping she'd notice the unusual behavior. When I returned to the bedroom, Cora was still awake, her book closed on her lap. "Did you have fun?" she asked. "It was okay," I said, climbing into bed. "How was your night?" She shrugged. "Quiet." We lay in silence for a while, the tension between us palpable. I waited for her to say something else, to question me further, but she didn't. Instead, she turned off the light and rolled over, her back to me. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. This wasn't how I'd imagined the evening would end. I'd expected her to be jealous, or at least curious, but she seemed indifferent. Was it because she didn't care, or was she hiding something? The following day, I decided to confront her. I couldn't keep playing this game, pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. After breakfast, I sat down across from her at the dining table. "We need to talk," I said. She looked up from her coffee, her expression wary. "About what?" "About us," I replied. "About what's been going on." She set her cup down and folded her hands on the table. "Okay, talk." I took a deep breath. "I know about the Starlight Lounge. I know about the man you've been meeting there." Her eyes widened, and for a moment, she looked genuinely surprised. Then her expression hardened. "You've been spying on me?" "I had to," I said. "You've been lying to me, Cora. I saw you with him. I saw you kissing him, dancing with him, letting him touch you. Do you have any idea how that made me feel?" She didn't respond right away. Instead, she stared at me, her eyes searching mine. Finally, she said, "It wasn't what it looked like." "Don't insult my intelligence," I snapped. "I'm not stupid, Cora. I know what I saw." "And what about you?" she shot back. "Coming home late, smelling like alcohol, taking showers at night? Don't act like you're innocent in all this." "I only did that to see if you'd notice," I said. "I wanted you to feel what I've been feeling. But I didn't cheat on you, Cora. Can you say the same?" She looked away, her jaw tightening. "It's not that simple," she said quietly. "Then explain it to me," I said. Make me understand. For the first time, her composure cracked. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her voice trembled as she said, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was lonely, and I felt like we were drifting apart. He was just there. He made me feel wanted again. And I didn't? I asked, my voice breaking. You did, she said. You do. But somewhere along the way, it felt like we stopped trying. I didn't know how to fix it, and I made a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't know what to say, so I sat there in silence, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to yell, to scream at her for betraying me. But another part of me couldn't ignore the pain in her eyes or the raw honesty in her voice. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I know I've hurt you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. If you'll let me. I looked at her, the woman I'd loved for over a decade, and wondered if we could ever find our way back to each other. Forgiveness wouldn't come easily, but maybe, just maybe, it was possible. You know all of them. She followed me to the bar, and when I had my drink in hand, she led me to 2 tables pushed together, where 5 women were sitting. I knew 4 of them, but not the 5th. As we approached the table, Brenda said, Hey, girls, look what I found, our very own dance partner. Then she turned to me and said, You know all the girls, right? I know Sally, Marcia, Patty, and Mary, but not this young lady, I said. Pauline French, the woman said, extending her hand. Bob Dalton, I replied, shaking her hand. I sat down and asked, What brings all of you ladies here on a Friday night? A girls' night out, Marcia replied. Why do you ask? Friday is the perfect night for dates, and I can't imagine that such lovely ladies as you 6 wouldn't have any dates, I said. We're all married, Sally said. We just have a girls' night out one Friday a month. Friday, because most places don't have live bands during the week. What's your story? Sally asked. A boys' night out, I replied. And where are the other boys? Patty asked. There aren't any. Just me. Sounds like there's a story behind that, Pauline said. None of the women knew Cora, except for those who had met her at company social events, and I felt the need to unburden myself. Maybe a woman's perspective could help me make sense of things. So, I told them the whole story, right up to the part where I started mirroring Cora's actions. But you don't know if she's actually had sex with anyone else, right? Brenda asked. Not yet, but I'm thinking of hiring a private investigator to find out for sure, I said. Why don't you just talk to her? Sally asked. If I did that and she denied everything, I'd be back to square one. If I had information from an investigator, at least I'd know if she was lying, I explained. Then Mary chimed in. Maybe she's doing what I did a few years ago. At my last job, there was a guy who kept hitting on me, even though he knew I was married. Eventually, it pissed me off, and I decided to mess with him. I let him on, let him think he was getting closer and closer to having me, and every time, I sent him home with blue balls. Maybe your wife is doing something like that. So don't confront her, Brenda said. Let her confront you. All you need to do is take turns dancing with us girls, and when you get home, you'll smell like perfume. I'll even take care of that. Right before you leave, I'll spray you with the perfume I carry in my bag. Your wife will smell it on you, and I bet she'll give you a hard time. Then just tell her that you're only doing what she's doing, and if it's good enough for her, it should be good enough for you. Let's see what happens after that. Do you think it'll work? I asked. What do you have to lose? It'll definitely be cheaper than hiring a private investigator, Patty said. My brother spent over $3,000, and the detective didn't find out anything. I decided to agree because, as Brenda said, what did I have to lose? I danced with the 6 women until 10:30 p.m., thanked them for a fun evening, and headed home. Cora was already up and waiting for me when I got home. Hi, I said. I thought you'd be in bed already. I'll see you in the bedroom. I just need to take a quick shower. She followed me, asking, Why do you need a shower? You never take showers at night. I ignored her, stripped off my clothes, and left them on the bedroom floor. Stepping into the shower, I quickly washed up, and when I came out, I found Cora sitting on the bed holding my suit. You said you were going out with the guys, but this coat doesn't smell like you were with the guys. I'm not thrilled about this, Bob. Not one bit. You're not thrilled? Let me see if I can understand this. Every Thursday, you come home from work, dress up provocatively, leave the house for a girls' night out, come home late, immediately take a shower, and then go to bed. Tonight, I came home from work, dressed up, went out for a boys' night, came home late, and immediately took a shower. So, are you saying it's okay when you do it, but not when I do it? When I got upset about you doing this, your attitude was, tough luck, Bob, deal with it. But now that I'm saying I don't like it, am I supposed to care? That's not how it works, Cora. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Nonsense, Robert. I go out with the girls, not with men. You said you were going out with the guys, but judging by the smell of your coat, you were clearly with women. There you go again. So, it's okay for you to dance with men at your girls' nights out, but I'm not allowed to dance with women at my boys' nights out. I don't dance with men when I'm out with the girls. Really? Hold on a second, I said, pulling out my phone. I tapped a few buttons and brought up a video of her on the screen. You don't dance with men when you're out with the girls. Then who, pray tell, is this woman in the video if not you? She looked at the video, her face turning pale, and I could practically read her thoughts. What else does he know? It was loud and clear. Now explain why you can't justify the kisses, his hands all over your body, and you doing nothing to stop him? The silence, as they say, was deafening. Come on, Cora, spill it. I want to know everything, right down to what happened in that man's car after you left the lounge. She looked down at the floor, took a deep breath, and then looked back at me. Please don't interrupt me until I've told you everything. I've been acting like a fool. His name is Brad, and he's the company Casanova. He's slept with all the single women and 2 married ones. According to the girls, he has a very large, and he knows how to use it. Apparently, he decided it was my turn and started coming on to me. I've always thought he was a jerk because he'd pursue a woman, get her, stay with her for a month or so, then dump her and move on to the next. When he decided I was his next target, I thought I'd lead him on, let him believe he was getting somewhere, and then send him home with blue balls. For the past few weeks, I've been playing along, letting him think he's getting closer to what he wants. Since you seem to know I kissed him in his car, you should also know that we never got to the back seat. He thought he had me that night, but he doesn't even realize that what happened that night was as far as he was ever going to get. Last night, he pushed as far as he could again, thinking he'd worn me down. But he'll never have me. I'm yours, and he'll never get what belongs to you, and always will belong to you alone. I've had fun messing with him, but now that you know, I'll have to stop playing games with him. I was planning to shut him down once and for all next week, but now I'll just do it tomorrow at work. I'm not thrilled about this, Cora. I don't think you've thought this through. Have you ever heard of date rape drugs? Don't be ridiculous, Bob. Brad isn't the kind of guy who'd do something like that. Listen to yourself, Cora. You just finished telling me that this jerk Brad has slept with most of the women you work with, including some married ones. He's a certified jerk. It seems like he's trying to notch every woman he works with on his bedpost. He damn well might resort to drugs to get what he wants. I've never thought about it that way, she said, pausing. When I deal with him at work tomorrow, I think I'd better do it in front of witnesses. And then maybe I'll make sure all the women he hasn't gotten to yet hear about what you said about his bedpost and the drugs. Will we be okay after that? As I said, I'm not thrilled about what you've been doing, but it seems like I caught it just in time. Cora stood up, undressed, and then said, "Get in bed, baby, and I'll prove how much I love you." Did he buy it? Completely. Hook, line, and sinker. Are you going to keep seeing Brad? Probably not, but damn it, Pauline. He's so huge that I experience intense pleasure every time. Bob is amazing in bed. I love him to death, and I keep promising myself that I'll stop seeing Brad. But then I start thinking about those extra 7 thick centimeters he has over Bob, and I can't resist. I guess I've got another week or so before Brad moves on. He never sticks with one girl for long. I hope you know what you're doing. Your husband's a great guy. You're risking losing him. I'm just glad you were there when he was telling his story, and thank you for passing along the version of the story I gave him. I'm glad I was there too, and that he didn't recognize me. Of course, he's only seen me once at your wedding, and I was just another new face in the crowd. I got lucky that I could slip away and call you while he was on the dance floor. Sisterhood is forever, and sisters always have each other's backs, right? Absolutely, she replied, and then the two bumped fists. Thank you for listening until the end. See you in the next video.